Hi, and welcome. So, what I'm going to be teaching you about today is one topic that I am so passionate about because of the effect that it has had on not only my life, but the life of the people around me, including the clients that I work with. I'm going to be going into the topic of biohacking and specifically how we can use it to increase our energy, our productivity, and our focus, especially when it comes to our business. Because as entrepreneurs, we need all of the energy we can get. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to be giving you plenty of action-packed steps so that you know exactly what to do and walk away with that you can implement even tonight to start getting better sleep and feel more energized and productive for your week. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? So a little bit of an introduction to who I am. My name is Tanessa Shears. I am a health consultant. I work specifically with entrepreneurs to help them optimize their brains and their bodies with biohacking and science so that they can get more done in their business. Like when clients come to me, they are usually feeling really overstressed and overtired and easily distracted. So when they show up to work with me, they're usually feeling just like I'm feeling like on the edge of burned out. I'm not feeling very good in the mornings. I'm waking up. I have low energy throughout the day. I have trouble focusing on the important stuff that matters, and I'm wiped out. And they reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, my health has taken a backseat. I haven't exercised in a while. What is a vegetable?" And they're just finding that they're not as productive as they could be because their brain doesn't feel like it's performing properly. So what I do is I use biohacking and science to completely upgrade their health, like taking their brain from operating at 50% all the way up to 90%. And I do this by creating a personalized set of standard operating procedures for your brain. So think of it kind of like the protocol you follow in order to get your brain into maximum peak productivity every single day. Now, this doesn't mean grinding and hustling all hours of the day, burning out. It means getting more done in your one day than you used to get done in a week, not because you're spending more time, but because the time you're spending is so much more efficient. So this is directly what I help my clients with. And I got into this whole field of biohacking in a very interesting way. So I used to work as a lifeguard to pay my way through university. And I would be teaching swimming lessons for 3 or 4 hours at a time. And if you've ever had an experience where you've had to stand relatively still in the water for a long period of time, you get really cold. So I would sit there and shiver like this. And I really didn't like being cold. So I had a supervisor and they came up to me and they're like, "Hey, Tanessa, I'll make you a deal. You don't have to teach so many swimming lessons. If instead you want to teach the seniors aquafit class," I was like, "Sign me up. Yes. How can I stop freezing all day long and teach aquafit instead? Whatever. Sign me up." So over the process of the next couple months, I got certified as an aquafit instructor and got my fitness designation. And in learning about how the body worked and how, the muscles moved and what it created and how you could change how you feel with movement, I was like, this is amazing. So literally that month, I went and I walked into the admin's office at my university and I said, "I don't want to be a news anchor anymore. I don't want to be in communications anymore. I want to be in biomedical physiology and kinesiology," like something completely unrelated, because I was so inspired by it. And this was a huge change for me because I used to be the girl that would show up late to PE in high school because I didn't want to get sweaty. And I hated the idea of eating healthy food. So to say that it is possible to make changes, even if you're not in love with the idea of regular exercise and nutrition right now, it is very possible. So in 2014, I ended up opening a business, a local business, as a personal trainer. And I had a blast growing that. And it easily grew to 6 figures over the next 15 months. And I lived and breathed in that business. But from working with, I had 33 client hours a week when I was at my peak busyness. And I know what it feels like to work in your business, working with clients, doing the programming, and then go home and work on the business and, be marketing and all of that stuff. And I was eating food on the go, something that would fit between client sessions. And then I would have to stay up late at night just to get the programming done or the emails out or the invoicing out. And I found that I just wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't feeling inspired anymore. I didn't love it. So I went on this journey to further my education. And that is when I took some nutrition designations and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I started applying it to my clients and I was like, look at this. they're getting better results. And then I was like, whoa, what if I went and learned all about sleep? And then the results really got better. And then biohacking and every single thing that I've been adding in gave them better results. And there was a point about a couple of years ago where I looked at my clients and I'm like, oh my goodness, they're all entrepreneurs. What is it? And they're like, Tanessa, it's beyond the fitness and the nutrition. It's the fact that I get everything done in my day that I need to get done. And I'm not distracted by little things anymore. And when I get home at the end of the day, I have the energy to play with my dog or hang out with my kids or cook dinner and spend time with my partner. Like I don't feel like I need to collapse into the TV at the end of the night. Like I feel like I'm getting so much more out of my life because of what I'm learning. And that is when I was like, I've really discovered something here that is so crucial to entrepreneurship. And that is the ability to manage our energy through science and biohacking with an individual approach. So that is what I'm going to be teaching you today. I'm going to be teaching you the one topic that I get the most bang for my buck with my clients on, and it is really looking at effective, high quality sleep. So you might be right now being like, what is biohacking? Tell me more about it. I don't know if I like the sound of that, but I totally get it. When I first heard that word, I was like, that sounds illegal. Like biohacking, like, are we injecting things? What is going on? And yes, biohacking does have some pretty sciencey components to it, but there's also things that me and you already do every day that are hacking our own biology, which is what biohacking is. It's essentially like the art or the science, or maybe a bit of both, of changing not only the environment outside of you, but the environment inside of you so that you can have more energy and life and well-being and health. And this really affects our brain. So biohacking is essentially creating solutions to our problems that have a return on the time we put in, because it is super important to me. Like, we're busy as entrepreneurs. We don't have enough time to add in all the little health hacks that are available to us. So when I look at biohacking, I need to make sure that I'm getting more energy out of something than what I am putting in. This is what to me is a successful health habit and a biohack that I want to be implementing. So when I often explain this to my clients, I tell them the way you're feeling, like you're feeling, the tired, the burnout, the exhaustion, that is because your brain is only operating at 50% of its peak capacity. What might that be like if it was sharp, clear, focused, and you were energized and you had all of the energy you need to get done what you needed to get done and still have time to enjoy your life after? So what would that look like if we took your brain up to 90% of peak performance? And the analogy I love to give is this. Imagine you were to walk into the Apple store. And in the Apple store, you could buy anything you wanted. And you went and got the best iMac computer they had. You had the best graphics card, the highest resolution screen. Oh, maybe you got like the most memory, everything. You got the best computer. You took it home, you put it on your desk, and then you just used it to browse the internet. That's how I feel the majority of us are treating our brains with the way we eat, how we sleep, when we exercise. This is essentially what we're doing. We have this amazing high-powered computer with every feature you could ask for, and we use it like we're just browsing the internet with such a little portion of its peak capacity. And it really inspired me to be like, how can I make this so clear? And the reason that I call biohacking the future of entrepreneurship is because the skills that you have as an entrepreneur mirror those that biohacking represents so closely. So I want you to think about this. Think about running Facebook ads. You not only, you split test things, right? Does this work or does this work? If this doesn't work, what about it isn't working? What little thing could I change to make it work better, right? And that's all what biohacking is. It's constantly evaluating what is working. And then if you take it a step further, when you're running, say, Facebook ads in a business, you're looking at not only what's working, but what is my return on investment? Am I actually getting more out of it than I'm putting into it? That's what's going to make a business successful. Well, this is what biohacking is too. It's looking at how can I be most efficient with the health habits and the hacks that I have. So I love to use biohacking because entrepreneurs really understand what it means to be able to measure like those key performance indicators, not only in our businesses, but in our health. So I find it's a really neat little marriage. So when we come to think about our energy and our productivity, we're used to thinking about things like, oh, what planner do I have? What system can I organize my tasks with? What calendars can I have? What spreadsheets can I have? That's how we're used to thinking about productivity: lists, checklists, calendars, schedules, planners, all of that. But what I've learned is that being productive inside of our business is not about all the to-dos. It's about your energy. Because think about this. Think about having a really poor sleep one night and trying to show up and be productive the next day. It just doesn't happen. So when you are fully rested and feeling amazing, then you have the energy to be productive. So I go back to the root cause of why entrepreneurs aren't productive. And it usually has to do because they don't have the energy to sustain that level of productivity. So instead of learning to manage your time and your schedule, what I teach is how to learn to manage your energy as a means of creating bigger productivity. And what I do with my clients and what I'm going to be teaching you today is how to look at your lifestyle and find those energy leaks that are resulting in poor productivity, lack of energy, and brain fog. So that brain fog word, that's a bit of a hot word right now. I mean, there's a lot of people that are talking about it. And it is actually, if you look at Google Trends, the search for brain fog has been going up. And this says that we are overworking and not taking care of our brains and our bodies. But what is brain fog? Like, it's not something that you'll go to the doctor and they'll diagnose, because it's a collection of symptoms. It's things like poor memory, lack of clarity, trouble making decisions. You're just feeling tired and worn out all the time, or maybe you have inconsistent energy. And it's kind of when your thinking gets like clunky and cloudy and it just doesn't feel clear. So examples of this are like when you wake up in the morning, it just takes forever to get started. Or maybe in the afternoon, your energy crashes and you just can't stay focused anymore. Or you're at your computer and you're getting easily distracted by all the pings and dings from messages and emails that are coming in all the time. Or perhaps, when you go to write an email and you're just like, you blank and you can't remember the name of the person's email that you're trying to email. And you're just like, oh my gosh, where's my brain? All signs of brain fog. But the good news is there are things you can do to reduce brain fog. But how do you know if it's brain fog or if you're just tired? This is something that clients ask me all the time, and it's important to know the difference. So I'm going to tell you a little bit how I know the difference between tired and brain fog. So when I wake up in the morning, I can usually feel my energy rising with that natural upswing in the hormone called cortisol that wakes you up. And I'm feeling good throughout the day. I'm getting done what needs to get done, and I have my high energy. And I notice throughout the day, I'm getting done what I need to get done. My evenings, I still have the energy I need to be present, but maybe I'm just not as high vibe as I was in the morning. I'm not tired, but I just don't have the alertness that I had in the morning. It's that natural kind of coasting into the evening. So by the time I open my book at the end of the night to read or to settle in, I'm just really ready for sleep in a good way, meaning like I like today, I had the energy to slay the day, and it's not something that drags on from the start of the morning. Because when we look around at our friends, at our family, at other business owners, everyone's tired all the time. So we just totally expect that that's normal, but it's not. So if you're experiencing tiredness all the time and it's impacting your performance, it more likely is brain fog than just feeling tired. And you can absolutely feel brain fog from being too tired and vice versa. So it's a good thing that we're talking about sleep today, that I can help you with that. So another thing, just before we jump in, it's important to know what the heck causes brain fog in the first place. Well, brain fog is actually caused from inflammation that goes unchecked. Now, we've heard of inflammation before, but we always hear of it in instances like, oh, I sprained my ankle and it got really red and swollen. Yes, that's a type of inflammation. And it can also happen in our digestive tract. It can happen in our vascular system, in our blood vessels, and it can happen in our brain. And when it starts happening in our brain, we're getting brain fog. So when we're looking at what's causing all this inflammation, 9 out of 10 times, it comes from one of these key three areas that I see with my clients: stress, being physical or mental, from their diet, meaning what they're putting in their mouth is slowing their brain down, or their sleep. And that, I find, gets you the most bang for your buck is when we talk about sleep specifically, it can get you the biggest step forward with the least amount of energy invested. In fact, you're just going to wake up feeling a lot better. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about sleep, and we're going to be going into a deep dive where I'm going to be giving you some of my favorite biohacks and tricks on how to start feeling better, like pretty quick. So it's important to know that sleep is one of those things that feels like we're doing it right. A lot of the times clients will come to me and they'll be like, no, I just want to start on the exciting stuff. Like, talk to me about food. Ooh, talk to me about exercise. Like, should I do HIIT? Should I be doing yoga? Like, what can I do to feel better? And I'm like, okay, let's back up. I know we think sleep is okay, but how do you know? Because back in 2015, there was an influencer that I followed online and I loved her dearly. I followed all of her productivity stuff very closely, but she started putting up stories about her regular visits to the Amen Clinic, the sleep clinic in the States. And she was looking at how chronically undersleeping for so many years had impacted her ability for her brain to function properly. And you know what I did? Skip, ignore, next. Like, I was like, nah, my sleep is fine. I don't need to worry about that. I've got this. But it wasn't until I got pregnant a couple years ago, I got myself a Fitbit. And the reason I got a Fitbit, because I was like, I am going to be the fittest pregnant woman ever. I've got this. I'm going to take so many steps a day, but little did I know I was going to end up with such bad joint pain in my hips, only like 4 months in, that I wouldn't be taking more than a couple thousand steps a day. But what I learned from my Fitbit was that my sleep that I thought was so good that I was skipping through all of this information on was actually not that great at all. And I was actually spending all of this time awake every night, and my sleep was poor quality, despite the fact that I closed my eyes at 11 and 8 hours later opened my eyes up at 8. So I began to do something I called Project Sleep. And I did this on my Instagram account. And what I did was I was like, for the next 3 months, I'm going to biohack my sleep live on Instagram. I'm going to tell people what biohacks I'm doing. And then I'm going to pick up my phone and I'm going to show them my sleep data. Like, look what happened to the amount of dream sleep I had. Look at this, and tell them directly what was effective and what was not. And this was such a fascinating way to explain the importance of sleep to people, because what I had learned after that 3 months of sleep was that I was having 25% more deep sleep. That's a lot more. I was increased my REM by 20%, my dream sleep. We're going to talk about these all in just a minute. But the coolest thing was I decreased my time awake by 23 minutes a night, which is significant. So after I got my sleep together, I had all of this extra time available in energy that my brain was able to produce, and time, because I wasn't wasting it trying to wake up with coffee every morning. So in the next 8 months, I compressed my full-time business into half of the amount of time after my daughter was born. I wrote and published a book. I doubled the revenue in my coaching business, and I launched a podcast in the next 8 months after I fixed my sleep. So when I'm telling you that I get it, nutrition and exercise, that's the fun stuff. Sleep is gold. It is magic. And I highly would love to excite you about it as much as I am to dig in. So the first thing we need to talk about, which sounds like the most basic thing, is, well, how much sleep should I get per night? And most of us know this. It's on average, depending on the person, 7 to 8 hours of time spent asleep. But here's what I didn't know. When I started tracking my sleep, what I realized was that I wasn't actually sleeping all those hours between 11 and 7. My brain didn't fall asleep the second I shut my eyes. It took a little bit of time. And then naturally, your brain can wake up between sleep cycles, and it's totally normal, and most of it goes undetected. Or I'd wake up to go pee in the middle of the night once in a while. Or I wouldn't, I'd be tossing and turning. And then my brain would wake up before my alarm clock would go off sometimes. And I found that on average, I was spending almost an hour awake every single night. So now my supposed 8 hours was actually 7 hours, and sometimes even less. And I actually now qualified as sleep deprived. So I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense why I don't feel the way I want to feel every single day. So what I've learned is there is a difference between the amount of time you spend asleep and your sleep opportunity. So if I want to spend 7.5 hours asleep every night to feel the way I want to feel, I need to allow for enough sleep opportunity to make that happen. So what that it means is that if I plan to sleep 7.5 hours, I have to allow 8.5 hours of time spent to sleep to hit that marker. This is one of the first places I usually start working with my clients. And yes, there are a ton of biohacks to knock down the amount of time you spend to sleep. But when entrepreneurs show up in my practice, on average, about an hour to an hour, 10 minutes per night, they're awake. And if you are like the majority of the people I work with, this might be you too. So what you need to analyze is, well, if I want to get this much sleep, I need to make sure I'm giving myself enough time to actually achieve that goal. So the next logical question might be, well, how can the heck you tell? Like, how do you tell how much time you're spending asleep and awake each night? Well, you got to invest in some way to track your sleep. Now, it doesn't have to be Fitbit. I like these basic Fitbits because they're super cheap. They're $90 in the States, and sometimes they go down to 65 if you wait for a sale. They're basic, but it doesn't have to be Fitbits. Like Oura rings do it, Garmin watches do it, Apple watches do it. There are all different ways to monitor the quality of your sleep. But here is why I'm gonna suggest that this be one of the best investments you make in your business, because it directly affects your productivity. When you wake up in the morning, your brain does not have this lovely printout that you go, oh, look at that. I got enough sleep. Oh, but I did not dream enough. But I got enough deep sleep. Like, we don't have that. So without a direct way to monitor, how do you know? It's always going to be a guess. It's the same as if you went to go buy something and you had no idea what you had in for money in the bank. It's like you were never able to go into your online banking and see what's there. So you don't know, is there 10,000, 20,000, 1,000? You would just have to guess. And we would never do that. We always want to know what we have available. So without actually being able to track it, we're effectively saying, I don't know how to improve the way I feel every day. So we're just going to take a bunch of shots in the dark. We don't have time for that as entrepreneurs. We want to go directly to the source, because there are biohacks that can help you with each specific component that might be lacking. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is to export my clients' data on a spreadsheet. I'm a spreadsheet nerd, and I like to analyze it. And I like to see patterns. Oh, when we do this biohack, what happens to your dream sleep? What happens to your time awake? And then we can do specific targeted things. But this is why I want you to consider a sleep tracker. Without this data, it is very hard to make proactive changes and figure out what's working and what is not a good use of your time. So action number 1, consider tracking your sleep. Action number 2 is, I want you to consider this. How much sleep opportunity am I going to need to get the amount of sleep that I want? Those are your first 2 actions. So next comes one of my favorite topics, is the circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm basically just means around the clock, around a day, right? And so many of our systems actually function according to a 24-hour clock. So if you think about it, our hormones rise and fall with the clock at certain times of day. Our body temperature does. Our blood pressure and our heart rate do. And our sleep functions relative to that clock too. Our bodies are primed to follow the certain clock. And that is why you hear it over and over again, that suggestion of go to sleep and wake up at relatively the same times, plus or minus half an hour, 20 minutes every day, even the weekend. But here's how I'm going to convince you that this is actually super important. So at the earlier part of the night, so think about this, maybe in the first 3 to 4 hours you go to sleep, this is when you get the bulk of your deep sleep. Here's why we love deep sleep. Deep sleep is when the growth hormone is released, and it really allows you to recover from your day. It allows your muscles to recover from workouts you've done and just to restore and repair. So important, right? The other thing it also does is it helps consolidate memories. So it puts it into long-term storage. It would be like the equivalent of taking information off your desktop and putting it on your hard drive so that it is safe and stored away. The other cool thing that happens during deep sleep, so if you think of your brain cells, they all shrink back just a little bit. and allow a little more room for the fluid around your brain to get in there and give it what we call a brain bath. Because as you're working in your business during the day, making decisions, creating content, what happens is all of that creates metabolic breakdown, and little proteins called beta amyloid proteins, they get stuck on your brain. And if not cleared off, it's actually one of the causes of dementia and Alzheimer's. So not only is deep sleep helping prevent these long-term diseases, it helps you feel refreshed when you wake up. This is a great feeling refreshed when you wake up. So if you're constantly feeling groggy, you might just not be getting enough deep sleep. So that's at the beginning of the night. But what happens at the end of the night? So as we transition to the end of the night, we tend to get more REM sleep. That stands for rapid eye movement. And we all know that as dream sleep. Dream sleep is what I call entrepreneurial gold. It is the stuff that makes us great entrepreneurs. And I will never sacrifice my dream sleep when I know I have to be creative and present in my business. So during REM sleep, it is fascinating what happens to our brain. We become better problem solvers. We think of out of the box solutions. And we know that being an entrepreneur, the success of our business is related to the size of the problem that we can solve, right? So it allows us to do that. It allows us to read facial expressions and body gestures. So think about this. If you're working with a customer or a client, you need to be able to be tuned in to what they're experiencing so that you can guide their session or maybe help them choose a different product. Like being aware of your customer, because if they start to lean back, you need to be able to tune into that so we can shift our approach and be good coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs, right? The other really fascinating thing that happens while we dream is we learn to manage our emotions. So they did a really interesting study, and it showed it was two groups. Group number one had adequate dream sleep. Group number two, nowhere near enough. And they showed them each pictures of increasingly negative images. So think of something like a house on fire. So the people in the study that had inadequate REM sleep, so not enough, their brains had a much more dramatic negative reaction than the other person, than the people that got enough sleep. So how does this matter to you? Think about this. The next time you get a troll on Instagram, or someone decides to respond to a post or a story negatively or critical of you, or a client has some feedback that isn't very positive, or you encounter someone that just isn't that polite. If you don't have enough REM sleep, you are much more likely to go to defensive and angry behavior, in which probably doesn't represent who you want to be as a business owner. I always want to be in a neutral emotional place when I make these kind of responses. So it is important to me that I'm able to manage those emotions and not get overwhelmed and stressed out when little things pop up. I'm much more able to stay in control of how I feel, and that makes me a much better entrepreneur. On the other hand, the people that were underslept, they also responded to much more positive images. And I mean, that sounds good, but if you don't have enough dream sleep, you are much more likely to respond to instant gratification, to take shortcuts, to make things easier despite what you want long term. So not only if you miss out on dream sleep, not only are you less creative, you can't solve problems as easy, you can't read other people's facial expressions and body gestures, but you're emotional all over the place. So you're finding you're very overwhelmed or very stressed out or frustrated or angry or grumpy. And nobody wants to feel like this anyway. So REM sleep is something I fiercely protect because of how it has changed me and my clients as entrepreneurs. So now we know deep sleep at the beginning, dream sleep at the end. So consider this. If you decide to stay up late, 2 or 3 hours to really grind out and finish a project, what essentially happens is you're not just cutting out 2 to 3 hours of sleep, you're essentially hacking into 50 to 60% of your deep sleep. Like that's a significant chunk that you're missing by staying up late. The same thing if you get up early. You're not just chunking out, a couple hours sleep in the morning, you're missing the majority of your REM sleep. So by constantly fluctuating the time you start and end your sleep all the time, you're putting yourself in a social jet lag, which means you are throwing off your natural biological rhythm based on your social events or work throughout the day. So you are giving your brain the experience of jet lag by not honoring your clock, and you're cutting out the quality of sleep. So when I give that recommendation, like let's pick a consistent time, give or take 20 to 30 minutes, even on the weekends that you want to go to sleep and wake up, it is not just because you get better sleep. It's because it makes you a better entrepreneur. And that is essential for our businesses. And we want to be sharp, focused, and productive. And we know that relies on our energy. To have energy, we need to be well slept. So now that you know that, you might be like, well, what is the ideal time to go to bed and to wake up? Well, that actually depends on your chronotype. So, your chronotype is basically how your body biologically responds to a 24-hour clock. And we're not all the same. So, for example, if you think back to like when we all used to live in a cave and we went to sleep at night and there needed to be someone on guard. There needed to be someone or a group of people that stayed up late at night to make sure everyone was safe. And there also needed to be a group that would take over for the early morning hours while everyone else slept. Well, we've still evolved like that. That's why there are inherent night owls and inherent early birds. That's the problem that I have with the idea that in order to be successful and productive, we need to be part of the 5 a.m. club. Like entrepreneurs are often told, like the most successful people have these early morning routines. And you're right, some of them do. But in fact, only about 15 to 20% of the population are genetically programmed to be early morning people, meaning they hit the floor ready to go, full of energy, and that is the peak of their day. 50% of the population falls into that middle of the road sleep cycle in that 11 to 7 range. So if essentially you are someone who has an 11 a.m. to 7 a.m. biorhythm, meaning that's when your body is primed to sleep, and you try to get up at 5 a.m., you're giving yourself jet lag and trying to work against your natural biology. So you're always going to feel that you are working against yourself. So the next question might be, well, can I change it? Like, do I have to be stuck where I am? And the answer is, can you change your hair color or your eye color? Well, I mean, you could dye your hair and you could put contacts in, but at the end of the day, your hair color is still your hair color, as is your eye color. And these are things that are genetically inherent to who we are. Yes, you can probably play with it and shift it half an hour, but at the end of the day, you are still going to be naturally primed for a specific biological rhythm. It dictates how you are going to feel during your day. If you are out of sync with how your body is naturally designed to work, you're going to have a lot of brain fog. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel out of sync with just your energy. So you're like, well, I like that. Now, how the heck do I figure out what my rhythm is? Well, there's a good thing that there's an amazing doctor and scientist named Dr. Michael Breus. I have read his books. I have followed his stuff. And he actually wrote a whole book on how to figure that out. He wrote a book called The Power of When. And he actually divides the different chronotypes, meaning where your schedule fits on the clock, into 4 groups. He calls them dolphins, which are insomniacs, people that struggle with sleep at any time of the day; lions, which are the early birds; the bears, which are the average population, the middle of the road; and wolves, which stay up really late. Now, the great thing is he has a quiz, which I always recommend people take just to get some insight. It's at thepowerofwhenquiz.com, and you can figure out which one of those 4 things you fall into, which one of those 4 categories, so that you can know when you're going to sleep. And I'm not affiliated with him. I just read his books. It very much has changed my relationship with my schedule during the day and my sleep, and it has worked for my clients. So I highly recommend, like, that's a really good place to start, because what it'll tell you is that if you're a dolphin, your schedule might be like 11:30 to 6:30, or if you're an early bird, a genetic early bird like me, my schedule looks more like 9:30 to 5:30 or 9 to 5, and you can start figuring that out. So what I'm going to ask you to do is take the quiz to figure out what you are, and then here's how you're going to take action on that. I'm going to suggest that you give yourself 3 weeks to take action and follow that rhythm as close as you can for 3 weeks. Because after working with dozens of clients on this and monitoring their sleep with the precision that I do, I can tell you it's about the 3-week mark when clients start feeling you know what? I do have way more energy like this. I do feel really good right now. I do find it easy to go to sleep and wake up naturally without an alarm clock. Like this is what starts happening at the 3 week mark. But most of us, we try something for a week and it doesn't work and we move on. So try taking the quiz and then staying consistent in that for 3 weeks and see how you feel. Because once you feel sharp, clear, and focused, it's very hard to go back. So, this was what I wanted to share with you today on how to biohack and use science to optimize your brain. We're going to take it from 50% up to 90%. And this is the strategy that's going to give you the most bang for your buck, is balancing out your circadian rhythm and actually following it and getting enough quality sleep by allowing enough sleep opportunity. And that's how you're going to start, by biohacking your energy. You're already sleeping anyway, so you might as well make even more of it. So if you want to take this further and you're like, I love this, this is interesting, this is making so much sense, I have a podcast and it's called Becoming Limitless. I teach entrepreneurs just what I've taught you, but I teach everything in detail. Lots of strategies, and each podcast goes into a separate section on biohacking, everything from your nutrition to your stress to the way you meal plan to your sleep. And I've got over 5 episodes that are dedicated specifically to biohacking your bedroom, to biohacking your nighttime routine, to biohacking your circadian rhythm, and that hormone that you might have heard of called melatonin that actually is going to have a huge impact on your sleep. So head to that podcast and download that. But if you're also like, well, what else can I do if I want to talk about nutrition and stuff like that? I've got an entrepreneur's playbook. It's a PDF that you can download for free. It's called 12 Ways to Biohack Your Energy. It's going to teach you my top 12 biohacks from all different areas of my Becoming Limitless framework that teach you how to start feeling good now. And there's some out of the box things. Like there's an app that I use to really get in flow faster. We talk about hot, cold showers and what that can do for inflammation. So if you want that, that's at tanessashears.com/energy. And that will be where you'll get my top 12 biohacks that'll really get you off to a good start. So I hope that has been extremely helpful. I've loved to have you here. Definitely reach out to me on Instagram at Tanessa Shears if you have any follow-up questions to this. And I hope you have a wonderful week biohacking your sleep.